welcome and thank you, right?
Welcome. Thank you.
My son set this up for me. Now I'm going to do a little introduction about you. Firstly, this is called Tell Me Your Story, and it goes back 30 years. I am a mystic, right? But even mystics have problems. And I'd lost my father, and I lost him to cancer, and he didn't have a very good death. I was standing in a bookshop this day, and as I was standing there, there was an awful lot of books in front of me, and I didn't know which one to buy. Then Spirit spoke to me in my ear and said, "You must buy this book." Picked up the book and I bought it. That book changed my entire life. The book was written by a guy called Dr. Bernie Siegel, and it was called Love, Medicine and Miracles. However, the story gets even more intriguing because this book changed my life forever. And this was pre-internet days. And I knew there was something about this man, but I read every single book he published, from Peace, Love and Healing, Prescriptions for the Soul, How to Live Between Office Visits. Then one day I saw a little ad saying that this man was coming to the UK. And he was coming to Warwick University to do a workshop. I had the luck, my husband drove me down to attend your workshop, where you did the workshop with your late wife, Bobby, who has passed through the door marked summer. That workshop also changed my life. And it was so uncanny. And I always dreamed, but I thought it was never possible, that I would love to sit and talk to this man who had influenced my life and healed so many people around me. So I would like to thank you. And I'm so grateful you've agreed for me to chat with you. And if with your permission from Liverpool, I welcome you. And I would like to say, let's dive in and ask. And I would like, Bernie, for you to tell me your very first memory.
Well, first, let me say, I didn't change your life. You changed it. See, you showed up. And that was something I learned many years ago when I sent 100 letters to people with cancer saying, you want to live a longer, better life. And they knew me. I was their doctor. I expected hundreds of people to come because the secretary forgot to say, this is only for those who received the letter. You can't bring your friends and relatives. And a dozen women showed up.
Yeah.
And my wife was the one who said, those are exceptional women. And so that became our group, Exceptional Cancer Patients, because I realized, you know what I mean, they were ready to do work, read books, answer questions, look at their lives. That's what they were ready for. And what a difference it made. And they taught me a lot too. So, and then I've had a truly mystical life.
I know you have. So tell me more.
Well, let me start even with my birth, that, you know, I didn't have a mother who was a virgin, but I had a mother who was told, do not become pregnant. It could take your life, because she was very seriously ill. And they told her that the pregnancy could be a strain on her, you know, heart and everything, and her life. But her mother wanted a grandchild. So my mother was good and went ahead. And she was so weak, she couldn't literally deliver me when she went into labor. So, I mean, the story could take up the whole interview, but it was a disaster. And finally, they said, you can't survive a cesarean section. We have to get him out. So they reached in and pulled me out with the forceps. And then my mother said, they didn't give me a baby. They gave me a purple melon. Those are her exact words. Because I was so battered and bruised. She said, took you home, put you in a carriage, covered it, and hid you so people wouldn't get upset. Now, when I looked at that, see, I didn't hear this story till I was an adult. So when I looked at our family album, I used to think, oh, I'm sleeping, you know, because the carriage is covered. And then I learned it was because of what I looked like. So I said to my mother, then how did I survive? You don't touch a child, you know, it doesn't develop the brain, all these things happen to it. She said, oh, my mother took you, poured oil all over your body, and pushed everything back where it belonged 4 and 5 times a day. Those are her words. And then I knew I was feeling like the most loved kid on the planet, you know, with grandma. Now, why do I bring this up? Because of our body memories. Our body stores, it's our consciousness, stores everything.
Alice Miller.
Yeah. So
Alice Miller, yeah.
What was it? How many years later? About 50 years later, the massage therapist said he was so busy he couldn't massage my wife and myself.
Yeah.
Would one of us go with his wife, who was a therapist? I said, I will, because my wife likes, you know, your style and technique. Now, I have a shaved head, which was shaved in the 70s. And I learned, as Jung said, monks shaved their head to uncover their spirituality. So I had no idea why I shaved my head, but I told the barber, you have to do it.
Yeah.
And
I've seen you with her, Bernie. I've seen you dancing with Bobby. And I want to come back to Bobby because Bobby was an exceptional lady. I remember you speaking. I remember Bobby telling jokes at your workshop. And I know Bobby lived with MS. And I remember you telling us, you said she was always at her most healthiest when she was pregnant. And I wondered, what age did she develop the MS and how did that affect your life? You know, that was a pretty...
I'll tell you, it had a big effect because when it was diagnosed, I think we had 3 kids at the time. Then she went on to have twins later. But we were exhausted and I felt this. Now we're all worn out. But her neurologist said, I want to meet you in the hospital cafeteria. This is typical sick doctor talk. Why are you meeting me in the hospital cafeteria? Because I want to tell you terrible things about what's going to happen to your wife. And I don't want you to get hysterical and emotional. So we'll meet in the cafeteria where you can't react. You know, he didn't say, come to my office. I'll meet you in the cafeteria. And I thought, I'm going to have 5 kids and no wife. That's really what he told me, basically, in a few years.
That must have hit you hard.
Oh, yeah. But it's also, see, I didn't quit either. It's like you said, you changed my life. I changed my life. I started looking into holistic medicine, meeting other physicians. We started the American Holistic Medical Association. I became the president of that because I realized here are these intelligent doctors doing alternative things and doing well. And basically my wife's MS, I mean, she would be tired, but it went into remission mostly. And, you know, she lived to, I think it was 87. You know,
well, I've seen footage of you and her dancing. Your son Jeff, when she passed, put it up, and it was amazing. And you with her, and she was so beautiful. He's actually, Jeff has sent me some photographs and there's a beautiful one of a butterfly on her shoulder.
Yeah, that's a mystical experience that we had.
You know something, just before this whole weekend, before I was thinking about this interview and what to ask you, in my head, I kept saying, you've got to wear butterflies, wear butterflies. Now, I've got on a butterfly necklace and I've got butterflies in my hair. And I didn't know, Jeff sent me a photograph and the first one that caught my eye was Bobby with this butterfly on her shoulder, looking at it.
2 butterfly stories. One from Alexander Solzhenitsyn in his book, Cancer Ward.
Yeah.
You see, I began helping people with cancer, giving them hope, showing them what faith can do, love can do, communicating with your body. And I realized when you began meeting people who didn't die when they were supposed to, they all had a story to tell you.
Yes.
And for some, it was, I quit being a lawyer, I picked up my violin and I got a job in an orchestra, you know, or I moved to Colorado to die in the mountains, and then it was so beautiful, I forgot to die. I mean, all these people had stories to tell you. And I realized there was a reason they didn't die. It wasn't what doctors call a spontaneous remission. It was self-induced healing.
Yes.
And Solzhenitsyn's book,
yes.
One of the men says, oh, look, I found this book in the library in the hospital. It says here there are cases of self-induced healing, not recovery through treatment, but actual healing. And it was as though a rainbow-colored butterfly flooded out of the great open book, and they all held up their cheeks and foreheads for its healing touch as it flew past. Rainbow-colored. The rainbow is in order. See, every
absolutely. I absolutely agree with you.
Symbol of transformation.
Yes.
But again, it's a struggle. You got to get out of that damn cocoon and become who you are. And
as you often say, reparent yourself as well. Yeah, reparent yourself.
Other butterfly. A patient told me she was going to the Hawaiian island of Kauai to die because her mother lived there, and she didn't want to die without straightening out her relationship with her mother. So she was going to spend her last year or so with her mother. We came there a year after she died. We flew in, went to a store to get something before we went to the hotel, and there was a butterfly flying around in the store. And my wife is always rescuing animals, and so am I.
Yeah,
and
I know.
Put her hand up at this butterfly that's fluttering around, totally confused by the lighting. And Bobby just puts her hand up, and the butterfly flies over, lands on it. And we walk out of the store expecting it to then fly away. But it hops onto Bobby's shoulder, goes in the car to the hotel with us, everything. That night, the story's on my website called You Can't Sleep with a Butterfly, because I really said to Bobby, you can't sleep with a butterfly. You got to get rid of it.
It's the spirit.
Yeah.
It's the spirit.
She went out on the porch, said, okay, I brushed it off. I said, look at your other shoulder. It came back. So I knew that was the spirit of my dead patient.
Absolutely, totally. Can I ask you, Bernie? Go on.
Story, because I said, I want you to hop in a bag tomorrow morning. We're going to do an outdoor workshop. I will take you. I'll talk about the symbolism of the butterfly, then you fly out of the bag. Well, the next morning I open the bag and the butterfly flies right in. I mean, it was just incredible. We drive to the site. I open the bag after speaking about the symbolism of a butterfly. It flew out and flew over the entire workshop from 9 to 5 in circles. When I said we're, done, then it flew away. And I know damn well that was the spirit of
absolutely.
And after Bob died, a year or so after it, I heard a knocking sound in the house. And I thought, what the hell is that? I go into like the front hallway, and there was the same butterfly banging on the window from inside the house.
She's telling you.
Explaining how it could get in the house, except that Bobby put it there to remind me of our relationship. So I put it out like she did, and it flew over and landed on my hand. And then we walked outside and I let it go.
She's certainly still around you then, isn't she? Totally. Bernie, do you mind if I take you back to when you first did Love, Medicine and Miracles, and you talk about other doctors calling you and your crazy patients, right? I bet those doctors now, I mean, if you think back, you hugged your patients. Now, here in the UK, doctors do not hug their patients, right? And when they don't even sit on the bed anymore. They don't even touch them. That's the way it is now. Now, you were a maverick, and mavericks come in. Mavericks change the world. That's the way I see it. Mavericks change things. Now, did you come in for an awful lot of hostility or criticism for your, shall we say, alternative out there or woo-woo methods from other medical physicians? Because here in the UK, they are still very, very behind. They're not as advanced as you were in the 70s.
Look what I'm holding up.
Yeah.
New York Magazine,
yeah,
1989, the top headline, Dr. Love, Bernie Siegel and his controversial theories of self-healing. I would get interviewed and criticized. You know, I thought when people called me and said, can I interview you? I said, oh boy, that's nice, good. And then they came and all they did was write an article about what a dope I was, how crazy I was, how none of this made sense. I was blaming my patients because I talked to them about their lives. I mean, they saw all of it negatively. And let me say, the problem is I have paintings around me that are, you know, famous paintings, but there's a doctor in them. And the doctor's always sitting like this, thinking. They're never touching the patient.
Yes.
The patient's in bed, they're in a chair next to the bed. They're in the patient's home, they're sitting next to the kid's bed. I mean, it's sickening that when I have said to doctors and medical students, draw yourself working as a doctor, they, well, 99% drew themselves sitting. This is at one medical school. Sitting behind a desk with a diploma on the wall, no patients in the room. One drew himself giving a lady a tissue who was sitting in a wheelchair. So out of 100 medical students, only one of them knows how to be a doctor. You know?
Yes, yeah. Do you know?
Wait a minute, let me add, this is not new. Jung said this over, 100 or so years ago. He said the diagnosis helps the doctor, but it doesn't help the patient. For there, the key thing is the story. For it alone shows human background and human suffering. And only at that point can the doctor's therapy begin to operate. But doctors, okay, here's your problem here, take this pill. They don't say what's going on in your life. Why do you think you got sick now? What are you experiencing? I've learned just that simple sentence has helped so many people.
Yes.
I said, tell me what it's like to have cancer. Tell me what it's like to have severe headaches. It doesn't matter what it is. When the person says pressure, I say, what's the pressure in your life that you need to eliminate?
Yeah.
Boy,
what's going on?
Their pain goes away and they go home to fix it. The one woman said failure. I said, how does that fit your life? Well, my body failed me. I said, that's not my question. And she said, oh, my parents committed suicide when I was a child. I must have been a failure as a child. And one of the reporters who came, I could tell this is going to be a very unpleasant experience. So I said to her, I have to see one more patient. Draw a picture for me, of yourself. She hands me the picture. It shows her with a really big head on her body. And I knew that was her, intellectual. But behind her was a clock. It was a clock with one hand pointed at the number 6. So I thought, I'm going to shake her up. I'm just going to go right ahead, not saying why is 6 important to you. I said, what happened when you were 6 years old? Oh, I don't like deadlines. I said, there's only one hand on the clock. And then she broke down. She'd been sexually abused as a 6-year-old.
Totally.
And tell at that point, the interview changed a hell of a lot.
I can believe it.
I wasn't some crazy doctor.
Well, you know, your pictures, when I attended your workshop, this is how amazing your picture are. I drew my future, right? And I remember exactly what I drew. And I drew three sunflowers. Now, these three sunflowers, I believe, were the three children I was going to give birth to. However, one of the sunflowers was perfect. The other two, the leaves had some brown. I put brown in on the petals. And I believe I drew my other two children's disability before they were born. They're both autistic. And I've always gone back to that drawing because when I attended your workshop, I was so impressed with what you were showing about the drawings, and with being a medium anyway, I also connected with the colours. So much so, I took your work and I transferred it into my own teachings. And I used to do workshops with other parents with children with disabilities. And there's a funny little story here. One lady, she was at the workshop and I said, draw me a picture. I gave them the wax crayons and she drew her son in his wheelchair. And then she drew these ladies and they were all vividly coloured. And I said to her, what's this? And I said, these look really like sexy ladies, if you don't mind me saying. I said, they look almost like prostitutes. And she said, yeah. She said, my son, obviously he's disabled, but he still has sexual desires. And she felt she'd let him down because he was disabled and unable to have a relationship. And we were able to define this from her drawings. And I found using those drawings absolutely amazingly accurate at what is going on, especially in my own life. And I even remember you speaking about Life Paints Its Own Picture by Suzanne Bates, was it? I bought the book and I read it from cover to cover. And I still use those drawings today. And that workshop, I remember sitting there, and you won't remember me. There were 600 people there, right? And I put my hand up, and you asked a question. And the question was, why are we here? So nervously, I put the hands up, and you pointed at me, and I said, to grow. And that was it, right? And you separated us into groups, and there was a girl and she came to me with a drawing, and I read her drawing and I said, you have unfinished business with your husband. You're not going to be with this lover. And she didn't like what I said. She was angry at me. So she went up to you on stage to show her drawing. She wanted your opinion. And you told her exactly what I said. And I've never forgotten it. But when we did that workshop, I knew something in myself had shifted. And you made me love myself. You took me back till I was 3 years old. And I was blown away. So much so, I have never attended another workshop since. And that reason is I've never needed to. Because when you've been taught by the best, you don't need the rest.
Right.
You get where I'm coming from. And
graduated, right.
Well, I want to say that your wife, can we go to Bobby? I know how you met her. You met her at a summit. You were working together at a summit.
Right, because that's a whole message. I was going to say, after you stop, Google Laws used to say to me all the time, Bernie, there are no coincidences. See, and Jung said it this way: the future is unconsciously prepared long in advance, and
Totally.
therefore can be guessed by clairvoyance.
Mhm.
So go to mystics, they read your future. Oh, and I've had many experiences with mystics who, including when Bobby died, bringing me messages from her and my patients and others, you know, things I don't necessarily believe in, but I know they're true because, I mean, the mystic called me and said, I got a message from a woman who was an opera singer, a lovely lady, and Bobby's mother was an opera singer.
Wow.
And she told her, Bobby's fine, she's back with the family again. So you can't deny that information. And, you know, so again, the consciousness is the key. And a study was done at Harvard, because you talked about didn't feel loved. Patients, students who said, my parents didn't love me, 98% had suffered a major illness by the time they were middle-aged.
Yeah.
Those who said, yes, I was loved, 24% had.
Yeah.
So you see how your childhood, your upbringing, love, all those things make a difference. They change your chemistry.
Yes,
And
they
let
do.
me add this. A student studied actors. His professor thought he was crazy, but I called his professor to say he's not crazy, let him do it. So what he did was give them a comedy routine and draw their blood while they're acting.
Yeah,
And
to measure the hormones and
the immune function improved, stress hormone levels went down. Then he gave them a tragedy in which the man had murdered the woman's husband, and they meet. And then when he drew their blood, their immune function was way down and all the stress hormone levels went up. And the professor said he was impressed because he thought it was crazy. Why should acting affect you? But yes, your life, how you're acting, all those things affect you. Monday morning, we have more heart attacks, strokes, suicides, and illnesses because of how people feel about Monday. Yeah.
Yes. And talking of actors, when I spoke with you on the phone, you may have forgotten, you said about your life being made into a film. Now, if your life were to be made into a film, who would you like to play you and Bobby?
Boy, I don't know. I was thinking, you know, somebody with a shaved head.
Or they could shave it, he could have hair, because they've got to play you young.
Well, I had hair in the beginning, but we could put a wig on. I had nice curly blonde hair. That's why everybody thought I was crazy when I shaved my head. Our kids were mad as hell at me because it was one more thing that made me look crazy, and they had to live with me, you know, their crazy father. But again, the advantage was with time, they began to come home from school and work and say, hey, thanks, Dad. I said, what are you thanking me for? I did something crazy at work. And all people said was, well, you know who his father is? They didn't get punished because I was to blame for their behavior. And then they began to be happy that I was their father because I was their excuse for everything. Yeah.
That's lovely. So going, you'd say, could you name someone who you would like to play you?
I don't know, just some good dramatic actor who can go from being a comedian, you know, to dealing with loss and pain and everything else. Yeah.
Right.
Because I'll tell you, being a surgeon,
Yes.
see, one of the things I didn't realize, I drew a picture for Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. The first thing she said to me, why is 11 important? I said, what kind of question is that? She said, you drew 11 trees. And I've been doing this work for 11 months. I mean, because of her, I went back with crayons to the hospital. And I said, but what do you mean I'm covering up? She said, you used a white crayon on a white paper to make snow. And so you're covering something up. And then I noticed when I painted my self-portrait, because I'm an artist and I paint.
I've seen it.
My way of relaxing myself, you know, to come home and paint and be healed.
Meditate, like meditation.
That makes you lose track of time you're not in your body anymore. You don't grow older, you don't have any symptoms. But one night, all the kids and animals ran out of the house as I drove up. And I thought, what the hell? I said, oh, I know what it is. They don't want me to say, sit down, I'll paint your portrait. They're tired of posing. So I yelled out, I'll paint myself. Don't worry, I'll put it in. And they all came running back. But I painted myself in a cap, mask, and gown.
I have seen that picture.
And now I call it all covered up. What are you covering
Got
up?
it. Yeah.
Because it never occurred to me I was hiding. You don't know it's me if you come in the house. I have a mask on, a cap. I mean, yeah.
Would you say when you painted that, when you all covered up, that you were unhappy inside? Because I remember reading you saying you were going to give up medicine because you were tormented inside.
What you can't cure.
Exactly. Now, what I wanted to ask was, how did you cope with obviously dealing with extremely sick people and people who died and then coming home? Pardon?
I went to a workshop by Carl Simonton. He had written
I've
a
read
book.
him.
Yeah. And he came to Connecticut, so I went. What shocked me was I was the only doctor in a room of 150 people. And here's a doctor who's treating cancer patients, who's trying to improve it, and not another doctor shows up. That taught me what doctors are like too. But all my patients were there. And the gift was they weren't afraid of me as a doctor. You know what I mean? They knew I was a human being. So they all came over and sat with me. And I said to the young woman sitting next to me, why'd you come to the meeting? She said, oh, you're a nice guy. I feel better when I'm in the office with you, but I can't take you home with me. So I need to know how to live between office visits.
That's why you did the book.
My life. Because that's when I said, okay, I'll start helping people live, not just treat their illness. That's back to Jung again, you know?
Yeah.
And those are things I read after all this. But what I noticed was, like Solzhenitsyn, when you help people live, they don't die when they're supposed to, you know? They add to their life. And it was amazing. Yeah.
And going back again, when you'd be in the ER room, obviously, I know how difficult it is raising kids. I mean, Bobby had the 5 kids, you were in the ER, and then didn't you fall off the roof and lost your memory for a year? Now, tell me.
Well, I didn't lose my memory, but I learned that I have an angel. Let's put it that way. Because I was on the roof cleaning it off, stepped on a wooden ladder, and I didn't realize one of the rungs had rotted. Yeah. So it snapped and I fell. And I can tell you, on the way down, I thought, you know, you could die. Yeah. But I said, well, that's okay. I'm at peace with my life. It was a peaceful few seconds. And then I hit the ground with my feet. And I thought, how the hell did that happen? I couldn't keep my balance, so I fell over and banged my head and had a mild concussion, but I didn't have to go to the emergency room and do anything. And I thought, well, one night I said, I must have an angel, because there's no way to explain what happened when the ladder broke. Not to mention other times where people have gone through red lights and stop signs and crashed into my car. And even I've been thrown out on the sidewalk before there were seatbelts and not run over, you know. I said, I must have an angel. And this fella came up and said, you do. I know his name. Yeah. I said, really? He said, what did you say when the ladder broke? I said, oh, shit. He said, that's your angel's name. So yeah. To start with, he did me a lot of good, because every time something would go wrong, I'd yell, oh, shit. I start laughing and not get it. But I do have an angel. When I was 4 years old, I was choking to death on a toy. I had put it in my mouth and aspirated it, and I left my body. I had a near-death experience. And boy, was I thrilled. You're 4 years old, you're out of your body. What a wonderful thing. I've left my body too, yes. looking to get back again. I was mad at God when I didn't die, but I know now, I mean, God has a schedule for me, and I'm not supposed to die at age 4. So my angel did a Heimlich maneuver because I saw the body get lifted up, like squeezed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't see the angel. I just saw the body get lifted up in this crazy position. And then all the pieces flew out.
Yeah.
And I started breathing again, and I was back in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And that has always been a part of my life, to know that.
There's something
somebody said to me over the phone, why are you living this life? Because I was so busy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm going to be interviewed by you, and she calls me. I say, I can't talk. I have another, commitment. Why are you living this life? Because she knew how busy I was. I went into a trance and saw myself in a past life.
Yes.
And boy, did that blow me away. I said to her, I can see myself with a sword in my hand killing people. Maybe that's why I'm a surgeon, to make up for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have written a book called 3 Men, 6 Lives, in which the 3 men had 6 lives. So 3 lives and 6 stories. One of the stories is mine.
Yeah.
So I take my name out of the book, but it's another doctor. And in it, I killed Bobby, literally.
That's I've heard about you talk about that, where you
for hours. It was such an incredible. I was flying cross country. That's when it happened. I went into on this plane, saw myself living the whole thing, and cried for hours. But I also knew then, because you were mentioning how Bobby and I met, it was no coincidence we got married. It healed the past injuries and lives of families, because I mean, she was so pretty. I never thought she'd go out with me. So even though we were working together at a camp, she with first grade girls, I with the first grade boys. See, she was the head counselor. I was at the bottom of the list. I was this crazy college student. Watching the kids in the swimming pool. And I said to her, hey, it's really nice. They leave the pool open at night. You can come over and take a swim. Mm-hmm. And she said, are you asking me on a date? And I wasn't, because I didn't think she'd come. So, but when she said that, I said, oh, yeah, I'd love to take you out. So she said, all right, I'll come for a swim.
So what was if I asked you, what was the one thing about Bobby that drew you to her? What was it? Was it her personality, her eyes, her smile? What was it?
Well, I'd say it had more to do with her appearance. I mean, I was just attracted to her. Yes, it's beautiful, but I'm sure because it was something from a past life that that's why, I was so attracted to it, and to her.
And do you think that Bobby helped you? The way when you ran your workshops and you would talk about very heavy subjects like children dying from cancer. And then Bobby was like, she would balance it with the humor.
Yeah.
She would come on stage, tell all these jokes.
She made a list of one-liners.
She was brilliant.
It was like Henny Youngman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She would get up there and one line after another. And I could see the change in people. I'll tell you, when that impressed, I used to take her seat in the audience and she'd go up on the stage. But one night, it was awkward to climb down and go back up again. So I stayed there. And I was so impressed by how the audience was improved.
Yes. I remember.
10 or 15 minutes.
She was amazing.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the part I remember is her, 10 signs about your life. And it started with your husband calls and says he'd like to have dinner out tonight. So you leave a sandwich on the front porch. Put your bra on backwards and it fits better. I mean, do you want to hear the rest of them? Or,
go ahead.
And then you call your answering service, no one answers. You have your hair done and come home and the dog growls, won't let you in the house. You go to this in persons bureau, they tell you to get lost. You call suicide prevention, they put you on hold.
Oh,
You go
no.
to the fortune teller, she offers you a refund.
Oh, no.
I think the last one was, and the bird sitting outside your window is a vulture. You know, so by the time she finished, everybody laughed. And
She raised the vibration, and I
say
remember,
to people,
pardon?
pay attention to how you feel now and when my wife is done. So they knew it was obvious, because I could see the audience change,
Yeah.
you know, how they were
Mhm.
sitting up straighter, looking younger. And I made
Yes.
clear of how their emotions and the laughter. And one study done in one of the Scandinavian countries showed cancer patients were told laugh for no reason every 3 or 4 hours. And then the
Totally.
control told laugh if something funny happens. And who had a better survivor? The group that laughed for no reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Humor, I think humor is anti-aging. Definitely, definitely anti-aging. There's a few other things that stick out very strongly for me through your reading, like through your writings and watching you, is something your mum always said, which was something God is redirecting you, and something good will come of this. And one other thing which I have used in my own parenting skills, that is, you remember to love the angels.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about your children and you were worried about one of them. And it was about remembering to focus on all of them, not just one of them.
Right.
Am I right?
Yeah. See, I felt my parents really were good therapists, because I've learned this, also from cancer patients. My mother would say, do what makes you happy. The
I
cancer
use that from you.
Yeah, let your heart make up your mind, and then they were paying attention to feelings, because psychiatrists who study survivors realize this is real.
Yes.
So many of them were criticizing me until they did the same things to prove I was wrong and showed I was right. They started support groups, they did all kinds, and they realized he's right. There's a survivor personality. So
Totally.
people who would say no, pay attention to their heart, or my mother would say, God is redirecting you, something good will come of this. So that drove me crazy.
Actually, I use it now all the time.
Because my mother was always saying, something good will come of this. It's like, Ma, I had a horrible day at school. Something good will come of this. And my father's father died of tuberculosis, leaving 6 kids and a wife with nothing. And he said it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I said, what are you talking about? He said, it taught me what was important about life.
Yeah.
So he was busy helping people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't about making money, and it was helping people.
Helping people. And when you were in the ER room that month, I remember you speaking about you were having a really tough day, and something Bobby used to do, and I do this a lot to my husband. We've been married only 30 years tomorrow. And I always leave notes, and I think words are so important. And you talked about Bobby preparing you some lunch in your lunch pail, and she'd put messages in for you. And these things, I mean,
I can show you the lunch pail. I still have it if you want to see it, because it was a red pail with the word love all over it. See?
Yeah.
So I knew she's sending me love, but she would also put a note in telling me, like, I love you, I this, I that, whatever. But one day I opened it and it said, this is a 2-hand sandwich. And I didn't know what she was talking about. So when I got home, I said, how come no love note? This is a 2-hand sandwich. She said, honey, there were a lot of vegetables in it. You needed to hold it with 2 hands.
I was thinking,
that became a message for life.
Yeah.
Life is a two-hand sandwich. You know?
You need two hands to grip onto it. Is totally right.
I gotta tell you, because her sense of humor. 5 kids, house full of pets. There are times I'd be yelling and I'd get so upset they're driving me crazy.
Oh,
And
normal then. That's a normal house.
Bobby would come up to me, and instead of helping, she would look at me and say, "You're so handsome when you're angry." And I would just bust out laughing.
Yeah.
And
She was your healer.
She knew how to, she was a wonderful
Your healer.
I tell that to all the women. I say, you have an angry husband, just say you're so handsome when you're angry. I guarantee you, boy, it works.
And I mean, a house with a load of, I grew up with a lot of animals, and a house with, how shall I put it? I said to my husband, right? I said one time, I said, look, you want order where there should be chaos. When there's animals and children and noise, that's normal. When there's no noise and there's children and animals, that's not normal. Because children are meant to be just free spirits, and animals bring the home alive. I'm a firm believer in the healing power of animals, and I'm especially psychic, and a lot of animals are psychic. I've actually spoken, this is the truth, to a police horse. I was in town one day in the city centre, and I was rushing back to the tube to get the train home. I was hungry. There was 2 police officers on horses, right? And as I'm going, this horse just started to talk to me, as spirit does in my head, and starts telling me that he's very unhappy. He no longer wants to do this work. And it was really powerful. I'm not crazy. Well, I probably am crazy, but the horse was speaking to me. And even the officer on the horse knew. I knew, because I kept looking and I couldn't take my mind out. I got home and I said to my husband, I've just had a conversation with the police horse. And he said, yeah, I'm not a bit surprised knowing you. But like you say, the healing power of animals, and animals can smell illness. They can smell sorrow and sadness and joy and love.
They also feel it themselves.
Yes,
totally. There's a book, Straight from the Horse's Mouth. And now I got a mental block, but this is a young woman I met who wrote the book. When I met her, I was at a meeting to speak, and I met her in an elevator and said, hey, why are you here at the meeting? She said, I'm an animal communicator. And I thought, why don't you just say you're crazy? What do you mean you talk to animals? But when my animals have disappeared, Amelia's her first name, Amelia Kincaid, Straight from the Horse's Mouth. I called Amelia in California and in Africa. And I said, my pets are disappeared. And she sent me an email telling me exactly where they were, describing the house, saying, I can see through the animal's eyes. Yes. And I went and picked them right up. Now, yes. I know now, because I talk to the animals too. You yes. quiet your mind and you get into theirs. And yes. It's amazing how it happens, but I know it's true.
It is true.
I say it happens with other people too. You know, that you walk into a room and you sense something about the person. Yes.
And the animals will sense as well.
Experience. This blind man had a cardiac arrest. And his wife was visiting him when it happened. So they came rushing into the room, told her, get out of the way, go sit over there. And they were able to resuscitate him. After the crowd left, the doctors and nurses, she and I and the husband were there. And the husband said, honey, I could see when I was out of my body. Yes, and the wife said, look, don't get crazy about all that stuff. He said, honey, you're wearing a blue dress. They told you to go sit in the corner. and the doctor's pen is under the bed. It fell out of his pocket when he was resuscitating me.
Yes.
Wife almost fainted.
Yeah. I mean, I've left my body. And I know about what that feeling is like. And you know, you must know Anita Mujani. She has an interesting, Eben Alexander.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
He did, didn't he? I wanted to ask you, Bernie, about you and Bobby, right? I was speaking with Jeff, and he said you used to like to dance, is it, to Elvis? Am I correct?
I can't do all the things, but I loved Elvis, yeah.
Yeah, Elvis. And if I was to ask you your favorite song by Elvis that reminds you of Bobby?
Oh, I mean,
Not
now,
the wonder of you.
is now I have him singing spiritual songs, you know, because she's gone.
Mm.
Yeah, because it's changed me. But there's a song called "He Stopped Loving Her Today."
Mm-hmm. He stopped loving her today.
That day, yeah. And that's the song I listen to. And the other one is Danny Boy.
Danny Boy.
Because I go to the grave and I act that way, you know.
What about
didn't
she love Mac the Knife?
I can't remember all the songs. I really
Well, it was Jeff said something about you were on holiday, I think it was Hawaii or somewhere, and somebody was playing Mac the Knife, which was actually about Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, I don't remember.
You don't remember that? No. Well, I'm just thinking here, I'm just looking at my notes, right? If I was to ask you, because you are extremely well read, right? What is the best book you've ever read? Tough question.
Yeah, because there's so many. I think what really changed me was Jung and his writings.
Yeah.
He said so many wise statements.
Yeah.
You know, the future is unconsciously prepared, long in advance. I mean, the use of drawings, treating the patient, not the diagnosis. And I mean, it's just incredible. And it's about the person. So I'd say Jung was enormously helpful to me.
Right.
Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, her stuff,
yeah,
also, because I got to know her and the things she would say to me and teach me, because she was a Jungian also. And
I've read her.
Because to me, it made no sense for her to keep yelling at me, Bernie, with Swiss accent. There are no coincidences. And I'd say, what do you mean no? But she was letting me know we're preparing everything, you know? So it's not a coincidence when I write a book, because I never expected to write a book in my life. I got a C in creative writing in college. See, and I was an artist, and now I have 19 books. But no coincidence that somebody came up to me after a lecture and said, do you ever think of writing a book? I said, no. And he went and got people together to get me to write a book. And what I did was talk. You know what I mean? Like I'm talking to you. I just sat with the reporter and talked for hours, and it became a book. So I think all those things were meant to be and taught me. And then going to the hospital with crayons and seeing people draw what was wrong with them internally. You know, I knew that what they were drawing because I knew anatomy.
Exactly.
And incredible. And that's what the doctors who thought I was crazy. Because
now, you know your critics. You know your critics when you first started this work, and you've now 19 books on, and also world famous, you're in the top 20 healers, right? Have those doctors got egg on their face now who mocked you then?
Well, you don't even hear from them now. I emailed that author of the article about my controversial Dr. Siegel. He never answered me. because I thought, why don't you write another article now about all the things that we've done in the last.
And all the people you have healed. See, your future and your destiny. Bobby was your angel.
Yeah.
Bobby was your angel.
Supported me. I don't know how many wives would have supported a crazy husband. You know what I mean?
He must have shouted at you a few times.
Well, I was invited years ago by Oprah Winfrey.
Yes.
And the book Love, Medicine, Miracles came out.
Yeah.
I thought, that's wonderful, I'll go.
Yeah.
Now, I'm expecting Oprah and everybody to say, what you wrote was wonderful. But no, when I got there were 4 or 5 doctors yelling at me for being an idiot and not knowing what the hell I'm talking about. And it didn't mean that Oprah agreed with them. I mean,
no, she wouldn't.
Yeah, but I thought, you bring me here and I'm getting yelled at for an hour. You didn't tell me that was what you were doing. But because it's Oprah, everybody went out and bought the book, you know.
Brilliant. And the book has been reprinted and reprinted and reprinted.
Every country. I mean, they got copies from all over the world of it and everything.
Bernie, interestingly, I've bought Love, Medicine and Miracles at least 10 times over the years for friends who've had diagnoses, right? I even got you to sign a copy and send it over to the UK, and I gave it to my doctor, right? Now, we've even bought your books again, and just before our interview began, my husband had bought Peace, Love and Healing in a second-hand bookshop again, right? Now, I just picked it up, right? And I opened it just before we started. And there, you can't see it, is your... Yeah. So whoever, it's to Jackie Bernie Siegel, right? So I thought that was I thought of all the books, my husband, I'm in the UK, in Liverpool, you know, and so you turn up, your signed book turns up here again, right?
There's no coincidence.
This is absolutely right. Now, I'm absolutely, for me, now, I always see the future and I see in pictures. Now, I diagnosed my husband with cancer 3 times, right? Now, I was born clairvoyant. I have no choice, and it's a very difficult path. Now, last year, when we went into lockdown, this is one example, okay? And my husband is amazing, looked amazing. He's 6'3", he's 60 years of age, he's super fit and healthy. And he came into me with my coffee in the morning, and I looked at him and I just said, go and get a blood test. You've got prostate cancer. He went, what? And I've said this before, so he just phoned up my doctor, who happens to be my friend, and said, Vanessa said, I need a blood test. She said, well, we're not doing anything because of the lockdown, the pandemic, but because it's Vanessa and because we know how accurate she is, I'm going to send you for a blood test. His blood test came back, and his PSA came back very high. They had him into the surgery the next day, and he was diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer within 2 weeks. And the oncologist rung us and he said, what made you go and get tested? He said, my wife's a medium. And it went silent, and they said, well, it's stage 9, stage 10. And I said, well, you can, pardon my friend, fuck your staging. I know what created this. It was hate. And that brings me back to, you know, when you say words, 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 swords, 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 my husband will tell you he was carrying an awful lot of hate. So I have actually removed that word from our vocabulary. And I say, you cannot, because words carry energy. Very,
Right.
very powerful energy. I say, you will say, I intensely dislike that person, but you do not use the word hate. And the power of forgiveness is everything. And he's doing fantastic now. He's doing amazing. And he got through the cancers with the help of your books. I turned him on to your books because I always remember him saying to me 30 years ago, why are you always reading this Bernie Siegel? And I said, I don't know yet. I said, but it will be told to me. And yes, it was. Your books changed my life. They also prepared me for what was to come in my life. And it was tough, but it gave me the coping mechanisms, and it made me realize that I wasn't crazy and that I did see these things. And going to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, your friend Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, I remember her story where she was doing the research on the dying patients, and she was going to give up, and she was rushing out of the work, and she was going to give up, and she was stopped on her way home by one of her patients. But this patient had died 12 years previously, and Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was like astounded and went back to her office with this patient and made her sign their name. And the patient said to her, do not give up your work. Do not give it up. And that's how I first heard of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And then I went on to read, and then I found out about you with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And what an amazing woman. You see, I see spirits too. So that was fascinating to me.
Oh, yeah. I hear voices.
Good.
And let me tell you about my angel, my real angel. Because in a meditation at a group meeting, I met this man on a path. We were told you'll meet your guide. So I walk up, and here's this fella, and I was expecting, my name is Moses, I'm Jesus. He said, my name is George. I thought, George?
That's not even Jewish.
But yes, and he was dressed strangely. I mean, very spiritually. I didn't understand all the things he had on, had a big beard.
Yeah.
But I realized that he's with me all the time, because as I was out lecturing,
Yeah.
I started talking in ways that had nothing to do with my notes. I would just stand there and talk, and I knew it was coming from him.
Mm-hmm.
And then one afternoon, after I'm done lecturing, a woman came up. Oh, the first woman said, that was better than usual. I've heard you before. I said, I agree with you. The second person in line said, there was a man standing in front of you for the entire lecture, so I drew his picture, and it was George.
Yeah.
A couple of years later, speaking in the same place, which is a spiritual center called Mercy Center, and I think that's what shows us up there. I spoke at a Christian funeral. The Olga Worrell was there. She was a mystic and a healer. I don't know if you know of her, but
no, I don't.
Olga and Ambrose Worrell, Worrall, I think. Incredible. Yeah. See, as kids, even they were seeing spirits.
Yes.
You know, they would walk into a house and say, "Who's that?"
I do. Yeah.
That old lady, and say, "What are you talking about? There's no there." And then Olga would describe the person. They'd say, "Oh, that's our grandmother. It was her house, and she died years ago." Okay. Yeah. But Olga came up to me after the funeral and said, "Bernie, are you Jewish?" I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "What are you asking me that for? Because I spoke at a Christian funeral?" "No, Bernie, there's a rabbi standing next to you." And that was George. She described him in total detail. So I knew what all the things he was wearing were. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you understood. You understood. Tell me, I'd love listening to people's mystical experiences. Tell me some more.
Well, I mean, George is always there. I don't have to prepare for anything anymore. I just go and George talks through me.
Yes.
You know,
and spirit never speaks with the lips.
Him standing there and describes him in detail. I know they're not nuts. You know, other things I said that have happened is one of my patients was a mystic. So when people have died, I get a phone call from her and she tells me how they are, what they're doing. And I tell families, you know, who say, oh, my husband died, I feel so. Yeah. I say, call Monica, she'll get a message from your husband to you. And they all thank me for that. And, you know, it's quieting your mind so that all these other things can happen. When we're busy thinking, it can't happen because you're clogging up your mind.
Yes.
But when you're in that quiet state, then
when you walk with your animals, as you say, you're walking with God.
Yeah. And the other thing I realized the other day, because there's a word called Hisbodedus. Not many people know it. Hisbodedus. I don't know what religion it came from, but it's about meditating, being in nature, getting in communication with God. And so I go out every morning with the dog and communicate with God. And the thing God said to me the other day, it was this gorgeous blue sky. You know, I said, God, it's so beautiful that the sky is blue, and you know how you feel when you look up. And God said, Bernie, the blue is the consciousness of life. It's all the consciousness, all collected from the time of creation. And the light is the yellow energy. And when the two come together, you see all the beautiful green leaves every spring.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. Because I'm crazy, but that was always one of my questions. Why is the sky blue? Why are green leaves green? Who decided that? You know, God explained it to me. The blue and the green, you know, the green and the yellow, I mean, the blue and the yellow come together, and we have the beautiful green of life. Yeah.
If I was to say you could have a dinner party and have 3 guests, dead or alive, from history or present day, who would they be and why?
Yeah, I'd certainly want Carl Jung there.
Oh, okay. We've established he's top of the table, yeah?
I'd invite Elizabeth back.
I have thought you might.
And the third person, well, I'd like to have God there, but, or maybe George, my angel.
Yeah.
To sit there with me too. And, you know, and then I could learn where George came from, how he learned, and all these things. Yeah.
So if I was to say to you, I know you've had your past lives. How many past lives do you think you've had?
Oh, I don't know. I just experienced one.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything, you see, because I went for therapy after I experienced my past life, because it was so heartbreaking for me. The woman who was my wife. And let me tell you that story so you'll understand. When I went to see the Jungian therapist to help me, I said to him, the Lord said, I want you to kill the neighbor's daughter because he's causing a problem. I'm tired of talking to him. I said, why don't I kill him? No, I want you to kill her.
To hurt him more.
I said, and if I don't, what will you do? I'll kill you. You don't kill me. I said, I'm going. And I wanted to kill her at night. I went to the castle where they lived and said, I'm going through. Could I spend the night here? They said, fine. Yeah, sure. So I found out where the daughter's room was, went up there at night to kill her in her sleep, so it would hurt less. There was a dog in the room. And I know that's part of why the two of us have been rescued. Our book, Love, Animals, and Miracles, will tell you about the Siegel Zoo. You know, we were all, I think it was, again, like a guilt that we're rescuing all these creatures. I killed the dog so it wouldn't attack me. And that woke up the woman. And when she turned over, it was Bobby's face. And I chopped it. and
Oh.
grabbed her head, and I went back, got on my horse and rode back to my Lord and said, here, you happy with what happened? And he, I didn't do this, you did it. It's not me, it's you. Well, when I went to the therapist and he said, Bernie, you have to realize something. You keep using the word my Lord. I said, it's part of the castle. He said, no, Bernie, it's your Lord. And boy, that knocked me over. I realized I needed to have faith in my Lord.
That is a very powerful.
Let me finish.
Sorry.
The thing came up again. Go kill the neighbor's daughter. And I said, okay, I'm going. And he said, no, I just needed to know you had faith in me. Because what I had said to the therapist was, I couldn't understand how Abraham and Jesus put up with it. Why didn't Abraham say, take me, leave my kid alone?
Yeah.
Jump off the cross to show people you can do miracles. You know, so faith was always a question until that moment. And when I said, okay, he said, I can have faith in you, bring them here. And came together. And my Lord said, you two have fallen in love. I can see that. Why don't you get married? We will give you the land that we're fighting over, and there's nothing to fight over anymore. And it just all came together. The two families became one. So I knew that Bobby and I marrying in this life healed the past life, because now we're one family, not killing and
it's very, that is actually very like a Shakespearean tragedy. It's almost like Hamlet or something like that. Now, I wanted to ask you, in today's age, now that you've retired, how do you feel medicine should go? Because medicine in the UK is very different to medicine in the USA, because we have mostly free healthcare, but you have to pay over in America. You have to have insurance, and we don't. But how do you feel with the fact that you are complementary, you embrace your way of doing things, whereas the UK is still very much in the dark ages, where it's the old, I'm the doctor, I know best, you don't know nothing, don't question me. That is still very much the case in the UK. So
until the doctor gets sick or his loved one gets sick, then they change.
Yes.
Because in the past, there's a book a doctor wrote called Healing Lessons about his wife's cancer. And in it, he apologizes to me. I was sent a copy. So I called him. I said, I don't even know you. What are you apologizing for? He said, I'm apologizing for what I thought of you. You are a big help now that my wife has cancer, and you're helping us every night.
And yet it took his wife to get cancer for him to realize what you were doing. So really, you were a pioneer and ahead of your time.
Yeah.
You and Elizabeth Kubler-Ross.
Yeah. See, I had an open mind. If I experienced something, I believed it and used it. People could say to me, oh, what the difference does it make to do a drawing? Why are you playing music in the operating room? Why are you talking to your patients under anesthesia? They can't hear you. But patients would wake up and talk about what we said in the operating room.
Yes, yes.
And see, these were other things too. The patients that were called crazy became Siegel's, crazy patients as a compliment.
Yes.
And it was fun for doctors because a woman was being radiated and I got a phone call. This patient has no reaction to radiation. I thought the machine was broken. Then I saw your name in the chart. So I knew she was a crazy patient. And she said, I get out of the way and let it go to my tumor. So people had surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, no pain, no side effects.
Brilliant.
And they had to believe it because it was happening in front of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You should be, I mean, you should go in. I mean, do you go into medical schools to teach the
Oh,
young
I
doctors?
used to, but it's sad that they don't invite me, more of them, and
Yeah.
say, come, we need to be, treating people, not diseases, and know how to take care of patients. That's the biggest thing. Know how
And
to, and something Maimonides said years ago. He said, disease is a loss of health. We need to help people find their health again. See, it's not God punishing you. That's why you got cancer. It's all, And so if doctors saw themselves as helping people find their health again, that would be a very different thing rather than,
just
okay,
giving a
I get my
prescription.
degree and I'm a doctor and I can write a prescription and I can operate and I can, yeah.
Can I ask you?
Well, I'll tell you a good idea.
What?
If we see, you can't graduate from medical school unless you spend a week in bed in a hospital.
Like Pat Adams. Pat reminds me of Pat Adams. Yeah.
Yeah. So we put you in bed.
Yeah.
And don't tell them you're a medical student, and tell them you have some serious illness, so it's in the record, and then see what you go through. Yeah.
Oh, if only you could come over here. I've seen some bad medicine practiced over here. I wish you could come over and teach the young doctors over here. Now, if you did get a film made of your life, what would you like it to be called? What would the title be?
Maybe it should be Uncovering the Truth.
Uncovering the Truth. And if I was to ask you, did you know in your heart that you always wanted to be a doctor?
Well, I shouldn't say that I knew when I was a child, because I thought maybe I'll be an artist. I like working with my hands.
Yeah.
Okay? I thought I could be an artist, but then I learned, in a sense that, how do you earn money as an artist?
Starving artists.
I didn't know there were artists who had paintings worth $1 million. You know what I mean?
But normally when they're dead.
It was like becoming a decorator, making things look pretty. And I thought, I don't want to decorate things. So I let that go. And then another way of working with my hands was as a surgeon. So I could use my hands to help people. So that's it. And I said, all right, I'll do that because it's interesting. The body's interesting. Science is interesting. People are interesting. It was all a way of putting it all together. Okay, be a doctor. Yeah.
And have you any regrets? Anything you would have done differently?
I don't think so, because it all worked out. My partner, Richard Selzer, he was not a normal doctor either. He wrote some books. I mean, he was into, consciousness and all kinds of, and he was in practice. He was like a year ahead of me. So when I was done with my training, I came back to Yale in New Haven, Connecticut, and started working with him. And because the two of us cared about people, we had no trouble taking
good
care.
Partnership.
Yeah, see, his mother-in-law was our nurse, and she wasn't a nurse. I mean, if she saw blood, sometimes she almost fainted, but she was a mother-in-law. So all the patients were cared for by their mother-in-law,
Yes.
He ran a home, not a doctor's office.
Yeah. I find it absolutely fascinating. So you would like a film to be called Uncovering the Truth, is that right? Yeah. And you don't know who you'd like to play you, right? And if you had some advice for this generation of medics, what would it be?
Well, to really sit down and ask yourself, why did I become a doctor? And draw yourself working as a doctor. And then look at those answers.
Yeah.
Are you caring for people.
That would be an interesting thing to put into the exam to get into medical school.
Absolutely.
Totally, yeah. Right. Bernie, is there anything you'd like to ask me at all? Or I'm just seeing if I don't want to leave it.
I wish I could think of somebody. I mean, I know if I could see a whole bunch of movies, I'd pick somebody out. Because I always laugh at, Mel Brooks and his comedy.
Yeah. Did you like Patch Adams?
Yes. Oh yeah, he's been in our house and
loved him.
Yeah,
Patch
the one
Adams.
you were saying how tall your husband was, and Patch Adams is big and tall. And that's the one thing I always wanted to be, 6 inches taller. I have to tell you a true story.
What?
Patch Adams and I both were at a conference together with my wife. And we headed
I'd love to have gone to that.
We headed to the airport together. And we're walking through the airport, and I noticed my wife drops way back. And I didn't know what the hell's going on. So, when we got to where the flight was, I said, "Why didn't you walk with us?" She said, "You don't know what you two did to the airport." I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, look at how tall you are with a shaved head. This is in the 1970s when nobody was shaving their head.
You all had long hair.
And how he's dressed in these crazy outfit and how tall he is. And everybody thought they must have escaped from some asylum. What did they?
Or a circus.
Yeah. So she said, I just was having so much fun watching the audience, staring and wondering, what the hell, where did they come from? Yeah.
I never knew that you knew Patch Adams, and he's someone I'd love to meet. And I love the film. I've read his book. I think he's amazing. And also you speak about, it's funny, isn't it? Over here in the UK, yesterday was Father's Day. I don't know, was it Father's Day in the USA? Yes. And you took on with some of your patients who felt unloved. You said, "I'll be your dad. I'll be your bonus dad."
Let me show you something. I'll show you a picture too.
Okay.
I get so many cards from her. There's a pile of them, and I can't throw them out. They're all messages about life. And let me tell you how I met her. My phone answering service. Dr. Siegel, do you have Jack Kevorkian's phone number? I want to be dead. I called her up. I said, no, I don't have Jack Kevorkian's phone number, but I love you. I'll be your father. Because she was as a child and a lot of other stuff. And that's over 30 years ago. She's still, this is her picture.
Lift it up. Brilliant. Thank you. Yes.
Merry Christmas. And then this was Father's Day.
Ah, that is beautiful.
Beautiful. To my bonus dad. Thanks for always treating me like your own annoying little human being.
Oh, how lovely. That is beautiful. Now, going to your own 5 children, that must have been tough.
It was, yeah. See, because I was thinking of that before when you were talking about noise and commotion. Because you say to me, are you getting a divorce? I said, what the hell are you talking about? I love your mother. Why would I want a divorce? You yell a lot, and our neighbors are getting divorced, and they yell.
You mean you're being real? Do you ever think this, Bernie? Those couples that say, "Oh, we never argue." I always think, well, which one's suppressing something?
No, but I let them know I'm angry.
Yes.
I don't like how people are behaving, but I love your mother. You know, so very different statement. And I'll tell you, I mean, yes, we've had trouble with 5 kids. I wish I had known more, as a young man having 5 kids. But one of them, I'd say the greatest gift, because he was such a problem. Even sent him to psychiatrists. And the psychiatrist said, don't worry about him. I said, why not? Because he sits here, he doesn't say a word, and he stares at me. not many people can sit with a psychiatrist and stare right at them and not say anything. So I brought him home. But one day, and this is probably 20 years ago, there's an email, Mom and Dad, I want to let you know that I love you. And I'm sending this to you now. So if something happened to me and I died with having said that to you, I'd feel terrible. And thank you for everything you did. And
it's lovely.
I'm sure that's still in my computer somewhere.
That's lovely. Go on.
Yeah, that breaks your heart. And he was, he was so smart, he could drive you crazy. He would hide in the house and not go to school and tell his 4 siblings to lie for him and tell the babysitters, because sometimes Bobby and I were away speaking.
Yeah.
And we had a couple come in that were our friends, like family, a husband and wife stayed here with the kids. And they'd say, where's Jeffrey? He's not going to school. And they'd say, oh, he left early. It was a lie. He was hiding. Oh, and then his other line, Grandma wants me to visit her. And I put him on a bus. And I learned many years later, he said, Grandma never called to ask me to visit her. I just like getting out of here.
You know what? I wonder, what was he in a past life? Trickster?
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Wouldn't that be? Yeah, wouldn't that be? So that has been so, what I love about the fact, where you've spoken about family life, and you see on the TV this artificial image of family life, which is not true. It's very, real family life does have its ups and downs, and animals do poo on the floor. They do leave mess. They do chew wires.
I mean, we broke all the zoning laws. That's why I called it the Siegel Zoo, because we love the animals. Jeffrey still, he has a ton of chickens and geese, and he rescues a lot of them. When he finds them around the pond that's on his land. He had goats, and we had exotic pets that veterinarians gave us.
Goats are a nuisance, if you don't mind me saying, especially the billy goats. They get at everything. Goats. They can be a nuisance.
No, I had a fenced-in area around the house.
Yeah, if the fenced in.
Well, sometimes we'd be standing there, and they'd put their feet, on our, so they can eat the leaves on the tree. And I would warn people, if you're in the front yard, be careful, because the goats will But they became family. They all had names. The dog. We had a lot of them running wild in the house, which
do you know there's a picture on your Facebook where you've got we call it German Shepherd dog, and you're hugging it, picture of you. What was his name? What was?
It's a her.
What was it? Sybil. I used to train dogs. I used to train police dogs. And you know what? You never trained the dog. You trained the person who owned the dog.
Yeah, I still have that picture. I can see it from.
It's an absolutely gorgeous dog. I really like that.
Miracle, because a lady had a dream, and the cat that said, "My name is Miracle," and told her how to treat her cancer, and she did and got well. So one of the kids, I think it was Jeffrey, said, "I found this cat in the garage. He was wandering around. He went to get somewhere and saw the cat. So he brought it home and said, well, we'll keep him, name her Miracle." And she was a miracle. She lived for over 20 years.
Wow.
Died, had some medication that she had a reaction to, because it wasn't of a disease that she died. But anyway, I entered her in a dog show because she was such an incredible cat. She was more like a dog. You could talk to her, give her commands, walk down the street with her, take her into stores, everything. People were always shocked when I'd walk in with a cat sitting on my shoulder. But they had a dog show in town, so I entered her in the dog show.
Only you would enter the cat into a dog show.
Yeah. The veterinarian said, "This is a dog show. What are you doing here?" I said, think she's a dog. I don't want to hurt her feelings. So I
You didn't want to give it any hang-ups.
no, but she was the hit of the show.
Wow.
Putting a
Brilliant.
dog down, I mean, a cat down in the middle of all these dogs, some of them 200 pounds in size.
Yeah.
And every dog came over to sniff her.
Yeah.
And she rubbed noses with the dogs and sit there. So she hit of the show. The next year, the sign went up. And I loved what the veterinarian did. He didn't yell at me and tell me, you're an idiot, screwed everything, you know. The next sign went up, dog show. And at the bottom, there was a line on the sign that said, for dogs only. And I knew he was telling me, Siegel, don't come back.
Because you stole the show. That's why. Right. You stole the show.
I admired him for not being angry at me and using a sense of humor.
Well, that's you, the maverick again. I like mavericks because, as I say, mavericks change the world. And you've made such a difference. And I'm not a person who patronizes people. I'm very straight talking. And I would like to say that I am truly honored that I dreamt 30 years ago that I thought it would be impossible to ever speak to you. And here I am now through technology in the middle of a pandemic, able to have a conversation with someone who's helped me heal my husband, heal myself, heal other people. And that is a true gift that you've given to the world. So I would like to ask you, out of all the books you've written, what is your favorite one?
Well, let me say something too.
Yeah.
There's a difference in healing and curing. So I think we can all heal our lives.
Yeah.
Then the body responds and cures itself. But
totally.
And healing your lives, because that's the thing I really began to see. When I would meet people I thought were dead and say, why didn't you come back to the office? Why didn't you let me? They'd say, what's the point? All the doctors are telling me I'm going to die.
How did you cope with what we say the naysayers?
Well, I learned to be what I call a love warrior. Tell everybody you love them. Then they don't know what to do with you.
Disarms them.
Yeah.
Disarms them because love is more powerful. Love.
And I would empower people too, that when you want to die, I can help you die, leave your body. Yeah. I mean, I can really say my parents, Bobby's parents, Bobby had no trouble dying. I mean, in their sleep, at parties. Mm-hmm. I mean, when people were told I'm going to die Sunday afternoon, so everybody came, we had a big party. My father died laughing because of stories my mother was telling. He looked so healthy. I thought, oh boy, we're going to screw up because all these people have come to say goodbye and he's having such a wonderful day. He's going to change his mind. But no, when the last person who said, I'm coming, walked in, he took his last breath.
Did he? He waited. He waited. He waited. Bernie.
So all those experiences have reaffirmed for me.
So could you not say one book which is your favorite?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's hard. I'd say if somebody had an illness, Love, Medicine, and Miracles is a good start.
Yeah.
If you're just living with life, I wrote one called recently, No Endings, Only Beginnings.
I have it. I've got it.
I'm
looking at it right now.
So that's more to teach people how to deal with the changes that come up in your life.
Right.
So every one of them, see, even the intuitive part, Love, Animals, and Miracles. Mm-hmm. The stories of what animals know about you and how they react. So all of them have that, kind of presence in them.
Bernie, if you don't mind me saying, right, I would like to take the opportunity to give you my gracious gratitude for you giving up your time. Oh, I've read it and I love it, and I'll read it again.
I have this on my desk because I read it every day. I'd say to everybody who's there, 365 prescriptions for the soul, daily messages of inspiration, hope, and love.
Yes.
And I read it every day, and it was written, God knows how many years ago.
Yeah.
I'm still reading it and rereading it because it's still the same messages that I want to reaffirm in my own mind and, you know, endlessly.
Yeah.
And so I keep doing that. And I'm reading also a diary, a journal I kept that I wrote in 1996. Wow. And I love reading those things because that was something Bobby taught me.
Yeah.
I can't find a date in wait a minute, here it is, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So 12 years ago, I wrote that and I'm still reading it. But the journal, see, that I used to keep because of my pain, and I would suggest to everybody, they write their own book every day, write down what you felt that day. Not just the pain, but how about the laughter and the joy? Because that's the thing I wasn't putting in, the cover up, see.
And do three things. What is it you say? When you feel bad, I use this, you said it, when you feel bad, go out and do something for somebody else and don't expect thanks. You said that.
Yeah, but do it for yourself. But anyway, Bobby found my journal, said there's nothing funny in it. And I said, life isn't funny. And then she told me funny stories that happened that I told them at the dinner table in the hospital and other things. And she said, they belong in your journal too. So I began to pay attention to the good things that happened and not just the negative.
That is such wise wisdom. And I'm so grateful that you've taken the time to share all this with me. You've made a dream of mine come true. So I thank you for that. I thank you for your time. And I'd like to end on asking, what would you like to be remembered for?
Well, I'd say for love, because
so should we say
love is immortal and makes all things immortal.
Love is immortal. The Dr. Love is immortal. And what was the
all things immortal?
All things immortal. Well,
called The Human Comedy by William Saroyan, that line.
Oh, do you know one last thing I want to say? I absolutely loved. Do you know the bit you put in Love, Medicine and Miracles by Emmett Fox from Sermon on the Mount, which was, there is no disease that love cannot cure. There is no, I absolutely loved that. And I think another guy who you've read, John O'Donoghue, do you know that name? Irish priest.
Well, I've read so many things.
You have read John O'Donoghue, because I remember on your forum you were speaking about him. He did Anam Cara. He was a very, very spiritual man. In fact, I think he was lucky to stay in the priesthood because he was quite esoteric for the Roman Catholic Church. And what is he wrote? Our Hunger to Belong, Anam Cara, which is Soul Friend in Gaelic. I know you have read him, but that bit in Love, Medicine and Miracles, there is no love. Oh, that just blew me away all those years ago. And that's what set me on this path. And I said, I've got to meet this man, and I've done it. So you
people from the blame, shame, and guilt, and bring the love into their lives.
Right. So I think the word love should be in the title of the film that should be made about you.
All right.
That's what it's got to have love in it somewhere. It's got in the title. totally, totally, utterly must have that. And it must be well written and well directed.
Well, my life is really like a movie, you know,
Yeah.
born to a mother who shouldn't have children, all these things that, and my teacher was my grandfather who escaped from Russia so they wouldn't kill him for being a Jew teaching Judaism. So I used to sit with him at night,
Yeah.
and God was my friend, you know, because it was my grandfather.
Wow.
So, you know, God, love, all these. I was a bright kid in school, so that wasn't a problem. And as I say, the messages from my parents.
Yes.
You know, do what makes you happy. God is redirecting you.
Yeah.
Things like that. And all those things gave me such a different view of life than.
Wow. Well, you've changed the lives of thousands and thousands of people, right? And you changed my life on many, many levels. And I want to end this now because I've kept you now for over an hour and 40 minutes. I have. And I'm very grateful. Are you happy for us to edit this and upload it to YouTube?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
I think it's my being your coach. So if you show up for practice, things are going to happen.
Well, I showed up and I'm still here. And you're still teaching me, so you're still the coach.
Okay.
Dr. Bernie Siegel, thank you very much for your time. May God bless you and stay well and be safe. Take care and thank you.
All right, let me tell you what I had chiseled onto our headstone, also from Royan. It said, in the time of your life, live, so that you do not contribute to the misery and sorrow of the world, but rejoice in the mystery and delight of it.
That's absolutely beautiful, that. I'm going to nick that.
And it also, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. And if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it with you. That was my note to Bobby.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Right, I need to end this now, but thank you so much.
But, you know, my last word, I'm just thinking, it wouldn't be a bad practice if everybody made up something to put on their headstone to inspire the people that will be walking through the cemetery someday. You know,
like when you take your last words, we used to joke as children, say, what's your last word gonna be? And say, I put the money in the, and you know, it's in, you know, that time when you lost that thingy. Well, it was just leave it open, you know.
okay,
Bernie, I'll let you go. Take care. God bless.
bless you, Vanessa.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.